Okay, so I welcome you all again. So for today, we will be building a tip calculator. So this will be our goal to make this user interface and make it work. And here we will not be doing much, but just entering the amount that the total bill amount, and then there will be some percentage of tip that you want to give to the waiter or the any service provider, and then this uh, check button is for rounding the tip off, and then we will also have a calculate button here. Then we will the calculated tip will be shown here. So this will be our goal, and we can start. So we will be first building the user interface, and then we'll be going into the logic, that is nothing but simple mathematics to calculate the bill. Okay, so first of all we will create the UI. Okay, so here will be our main tip calculators UI, and here we will be seeing the preview of our tip calculator in order to keep track of the UI so that we get what we want. Okay, so the initial setup is done. Okay, so now if we see this user interface, then we can see that everything is aligned in a column, right? One component of UI uh, is present after below another. So we will be using the column for fitting all these things, and for this part we have a row, that is these two components are sitting uh, right in front of each other, so we will be using row for that particular component. And so let's get started. Now we have column. So first of all we require a title for our app, so we'll be doing just by entering some text, and that will be calculate tip, and its font size would be around 20 sp. So as I said earlier, these are the parameters that you need to pass: the text parameter, the actual text that you want to show in this on the screen, and the font size would be in the units of sp, and the magnitude that you want to provide, referencing the size of the text. Then we see we have two text fields in which the user can enter the amount. So we have text field. Okay, so now we need to keep track of what the user has entered in the bill amount and on tip. So for that we need some storage. So we will be creating storage through variables, and we can use bill amount variable. So I talked about this in the previous session, that remember is used to remember that, so that when the composable composes this function again, so that the value is not lost, and mutable state is there to tell the user interface, to tell the compiler that something has changed, so that compiler can compose this function, and the changes could be reflected on the screen. And the second variable that we'll be using is the tip. Okay. And another thing that we need to keep track of is that whether this button is checked or not. So we will create another variable, uh, should we should round off, which will keep track of the button if it is checked or not. So we will provide some initial value because initially it will be unchecked. So that's why we have assigned the initial value false. And now there would be some storage for this tip amount. So we'll be having the tip uh, amount. So for now it would be let's keep it this way only. Okay. So in the text field, in the value parameter, we will be providing the initial value for what the bill amount will be showing. Since the user hasn't entered something, so we'll be providing an empty string with which we have initialized our uh, variable with, that is empty string. So we'll be passing that value. And since this is a state object, to access this value, we need to use the property dot value, which will give us access to this value. And on value change, we will be having a lambda function which will be providing us a string that the user has entered, and we will be updating our value with this string. Similarly, we can create another text field, and in this we will be storing the tip. So tip percentage it would be. Okay. And in the next we have to show round off, and for that we will be creating this field. So here we have a text on the left hand side. On the right hand side we have a check button. It is called a switch in Android. So the way we will be creating is by first specifying the alignment of these two, and the alignment is a row. And then inside of this row we'll be first creating a text that will be round up tip, and the second element would be a switch. So in checked we will pass the initial value, that is the should round off, and to access the value we will use the value field. And again here we get a lambda function that describes when the user clicks this button and it enables, then it gives us a true value, and if it disables, then we get a false value. So we'll be assigning this value to our variable, and then finally we have a tip amount. So we can so for that we will be creating this. In our country it is rupees, so I will be using rupees. And for showing the price, I will be using the string template, which I talked about in the first session, to show the variable inside of a string. So we have tip amount. Okay, and we will be accessing its value. Okay, so far so good. Let's see how it looks on the preview. And we also want to add a button, so we'll be adding a button between these two components. So let's add the button also, and inside of a button it would be calculate. So here we will be writing the logic of the calculation. That would be calculate the tip. So as we can here see that the UI doesn't look exactly like what we want, and it is because we haven't inflated its size to match the screen. So we'll be making those changes to the column first by expanding it to fill max size. And then if we see here, we want that our all fields are aligned to center. So we will be uh, using the horizontal alignment to align it center horizontally. So something like this we will see. Now to make it look more authentic, we have to first add some space above and below the calculate tip. So for that we will use padding, and the way we use padding in Compose is by accessing it through a modifier object, and we can assign the top padding, that is the area above calculate tip, and the padding below, that is by using bottom padding. So we will be passing two parameters, that is top, in which we will have almost 10 dp of padding. Then there will be bottom padding, that would be of 10 dp again. So that will give us space between these two. Now we want some space after this bill amount, that is here. So for that we will add some padding to text field also, and we want the padding to be below the text field, so we will be putting padding to bottom, and it would be 5 dp. And here we can see that round tip and the checker button are squeezed together, and the reason for that is because we haven't filled the space around the we haven't filled the space that was given to us, because for row we haven't specified any modifier. So by default it only expands as much as its children are there. So it just expands only to the adjust its children, that is these two components. To uh, to make it expand, we will again use modifier, and we will be expanding it horizontally. Now we see here we want these to be on the same level, vertically, so we will use vertical alignment to align these two vertically. Okay, let's recompose it. And for the space, okay, so we have aligned it vertically. Now we want them to be separated and be on either side of the screen. So for that, we will be using horizontal arrangement. And we will be putting its value to space between. Okay, let's choose space around. So what it does is that it will put these two components on either side of the screen, meaning that it will insert a huge amount of space in between, and it will also give some space to the starting and to the ending of the row. So if we see what that means, and also here, let's first look at the changes first. Okay, so as you can see, it is now fit. Okay, so now that this is resolved, now let's talk about the tip amount. Here we can see it is bold and it is a little bit larger in size. So we will do this by using modifier, by using text weight. Font weight. So we can use bold to make it bold, and I think size is good. Okay, and also let's add some space between calculator and tip amount. If we do not use the modifier, there is another way of giving space between two components, that is by using spacer modifier. And here we pass modifier height and the amount of space we want between them vertically. So we want, let's say, 8 dp of space. So it will create that space. Okay. So now our UI looks a little bit great. Now we want to add some text, hinting text here, so that user understands that what we need, what the user has to enter here and here. So for that, in the text field, we will be using another argument that are called labels. And in here, we pass in the, so we want to show some text. So we'll be creating the text by using text composable, and we can write here bill amount. Similarly, in the second text field, we can pass in label and pass tip and percentage. Okay, so now we have the text with hints also. Now let's create the logic for our let's see how this looks on the screen first. Preview looks good. So we can remove this. Okay, so we haven't called this function inside here. So for that, because of that, we are getting this white screen. So now it should be good. Okay, so we have this. Uh, we can add some padding because it seems a little bit upward, or we can add some space above the tip, the calculator tip title. Okay, Aman Nishad, I will go through this in brief again. Let me just see if it is right. So till now, let's revisit what we have done. We have first created the storage, you can say buckets, or you can say anything related to storage to contain the values that the user is going to put in these fields. For example, bill amount will contain the text that user will enter here. In tip, we will be containing the text entered by user here, and should round off will contain the information whether we want to show this check button as enabled or disabled, and these variables are going to be used to rewrite these changes to the screen so that user can see what he has written on the screen. Now, for example, we can check it or uncheck it. Okay, we have created a button also, and we have created a text for final uh, result also. So in the UI part, we have created a column that consists of these components: calculate tip, the two text fields, this row, this button, and the final text. And in this component, we have used row to align these two components. That one of them is text and the other one is the checker button, to align them horizontally. Now what we want is that we want to let's check first that, yeah, so input is working correctly. Okay, now what we are going to do is are going to calculate the tip. So for that, we will be writing logic inside of onClick, because when we click, then we will retrieve this input, and we will check if the button is checked or not. And based on what we have got, based on the information that we have got, we will calculate the tip, and the formula is very simple: bill amount into tip divided by 100. and that will be the tip amount, and then we will be showing it here. So after rupees, let's put a gap. So first we have to see that the bill amount and the tip are of type string, and we cannot perform operations on strings. So first we have to um, convert them to float numbers, because bill amount can be in floating point numbers like 23.23 or 65.66, so something like that. So for that we have to convert them into either double or float, and then we will perform other operations. So first let's convert and store them in another variable. Let's say call this bill, and we will use bill amount, and we will access its value, and then to convert it into double, we will use to double or null. Now what this will do is that the user can also enter some text here, but we do not want any kind of text here, and text cannot be converted into any number. So what this method will do is that it will first try to convert the given input into double, and if it isn't able to convert the number into double, it will return a null value. Null value means simply means nothing. So we have got nothing. So bill would be of type double with a question mark. This question mark suggests that the value could be null. Similarly, we will have the tip percentage, and we will convert tips value to double or null. Now to convert, now we will get result by multiplying bill with tip percentage, and then dividing this by 100. Now we are getting some kind of error. It is because if these values would be null, that means nothing, then we cannot perform a mathematical operation on that. So we have to put some null check here, that whether the value that we have got is null or not. So we will use a condition if bill is not equal to null and tip percentage is not equal to null, because we want both the values to be non-null, and then we can perform this action. So as you can see, the error has gone. So the error is gone. So now we have the result of these two expressions. Now we want this result to be stored in the tip amount, which will be shown here. So to do that, now you can see here that tip amounts value inside of this state is string. So we have to convert this resultant, that is in double data type, to string. And the way we do it, first let's tip amount, we will change its value, and we will put it equal to result. So as you can see, it is giving us error because it is of type double, and the tip amounts value is expected to be a string. So we convert this by using to string. So this just converts this value into string. And when we do that, the tip amounts, we put the tip amounts state value to be equal to the result, and when this value is put equal to this, the whole composition will be recomposed, and it will remove this text and replace it with new text which will contain the tip amount. That will be what we have put. So let's test this. First we will recompile. Okay, so let's say our bill amount is 178 rupees and we want to give 20% of the tip. So if we do it, we get a tip amount of 35.6. So that is how we are going to calculate tip. Now we have to implement this round tip also. So to do that, we have to check if the round tip button is on or not. So we will check here when the result is calculated. Then we will check if we should round this off or not by accessing its value. And if it is not checked, then we will execute the code inside of it. So if we have to round up the result, so we can simply do this by math, by using a library called math and its method called round. Inside of it, we will pass the result. Okay, so we can either use round or we can use round to int. Okay, let's use round only, and we will be putting this equal to tip amount value. Now this is going to give us an long result, so we will convert it into string, and then that will be fine. If we are not going to round this off, we can simply put the uh, the tip amount equal to the result. So in this case we are not rounding off, and in this case we are rounding off the result. So it depends now on this check button, that whether we are going to round this result up or not. So we are going to rebuild. Now let's write something. Let's say our bill is 895 and our tip percentage is 30 point, let's say 54, and we want it to round up, so we get a result 273. If we do not round up, we get something like this. Okay, so since this result, so if you want to only show some characters, some decimal numbers after the point, so there is a method to doing that also. Let's say, let's remove this from here and let's put it equal to, oh, is my voice clear?
Yes, it is.
Hello.
Hello? Yes, your voice is clear.
Okay, okay. So let's save this result in something rounded result. Okay, round, we do not need this. Hmm. So the way we can reduce the number of, we can specify the number of digits we want after the decimal point is by calling of a method called string for format. Then we put some, we can say the format specifiers in which we want to, uh, how many digits we want. Let's say 3 F. Then I think then we pass the tip result. Let's pass the result only. So let's try this. So what this basically does is that this is a format specifier that is used to tell that how many decimal points after how many digits after the decimal point we will be requiring, and the number from which we are going to extract this decimal number. So let's just enter 565, 20%. Let's not round up. So it is going to show you only the uh, result with the specified number of digits. Now you can increase the number of digits here, and then you're gonna get the same number of digits that is written here. This is something that if you do not know, you will be learning in C about these format specifiers. So like this. Okay, for our case, let's keep it to 2. Okay, so let's revisit again what we have done and how we have done. So first of all, we made a column because all of the UI is one after the another, is one after below the another, and then we provided a text for the title, then a text field for entering the bill amount, a text field for the tip percentage, then a row to make these two components align in horizontal axis. On horizontal axis, we provided a horizontal arrangement of space around, which pushes these two elements on the starting and ending of the layouts, and vertical alignment just aligns them centrally in the on the vertical axis. Then inside of this row, we have two components, that is round up tip and a switch button. So after that, we have a calculate button, which is in column scope. Then inside of this button, we have added a text to show to the user. And inside of on click callback, we have added the logic of the app, that is to calculate the bill. And here we have added some checks. If the user enters something else than a number, so this is to detect that, because if the this method is going to try to convert whatever the user has entered into a number, and if it isn't able to do it, then we will be getting a null value, which will be a sign that the user hasn't entered a authenticated value, authentic value. So if the user has entered a correct value, then this statement would be true, and if it is true, then this block of code will be executed, in which we get the result by doing the mathematics. And then we choose then we see if the if the check button is clicked, if the switch is enabled or not, and if it is enabled, then we round off the result that we get from this mathematical operation, and then we convert it into string. Then we put it equal to put it in the tip amount value. And if the switch is not enabled, we just we just uh, put the result to the tip amount value, and we use string dot format method to edit the number of decimal digits in order to get formatted value with specified number of decimal digits. Then we have simple text that shows the result, and if you want, you can assign some initial value to tip amount, that is 0.00, so that it looks good. Now another thing that we can do here is that we can see that the keyboard is showing alphabets to the user. So we can change the input method also, and the way we do it is by going to the text field and then having another parameter that is called keyboard options. Inside of it, we pass an object of keyboard options, and inside of it there is a method called keyboard type, and we can choose the keyboard that we want. So it could be text, it could be ASCII, it could be email, it could be number, it could be phone, URI number, password, etc. So these are all the types of keywords that we can provide to the user to enter specific things. For our use case, it would be number, because we want the user to be entering some kind of number. So we'll be doing that in the second text field also. So now if we see what the result is, now we will not be seeing the alphabetical keyboard, but instead we will be seeing a keyboard with numbers on it, a numeric keyboard like this. So now a user can enter a number. Again, if user try to add something like these signs, which does not count uh, into the numerics, then it will simply not calculate, because this condition would be false, and uh, this these lines of code will not get executed, and the function will just exit without calculating. So this result won't be counted. If you if you entered the correct amount, then the result will be calculated, and you can also round up the tip. So that is for the part of the tip calculator. So this is something that you have to do. Now, if you have any questions regarding tip calculator, then you can ask, like how something worked or not. So I will be answering that. Okay, you can ask any queries regarding this project or something else about Jetpack Compose that you haven't understood. So I'll be answering those questions. Aman Nishad said, asked, is it same like input type in XML? So yes, it is similar to input type, where we provide the input type to the user how we want to take input from the user. So it is similar to that. So does anyone have any other queries? Aman, the resources have been shared in the Discord itself. Discord, I think on Telegram it is also there. You can follow the resource provided to you on these platforms. The resources are in the forms of modules, and each module contains certain pathways. So you can just follow those pathways, which gives you a hands-on learning experience. So you will be good with those resources only. Yeah, Shalab Bhaiya has shared. Yeah, I think Kanchandi would give this answer better than me because she's our lead.
So, if you want to be a member at our GDSC, we are more than happy to welcome you here. You can always be connected to us for learning everything. You can join our Discord, you can be in our Telegram group as well. We welcome you here. Anurag, you shall proceed now.
Okay, it is end from my side. So I think there are no questions. We can conclude this session for now.
Okay, cool. Let's wrap up this session, and I hope everybody would implement whatever they have learned during this workshop. Have a good evening, everyone. And Shala would be sharing the platforms, the link of all the platforms you are active on, and you can join there and be a member of GDSC GU. Have a good day. Bye bye, everyone.